Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for stopping by once again. You haven't heard much from me if you've wandered by here into the channel for about a month or so. I realized that a few weeks ago that I had run into a brick wall, so to speak. I wasn't changing, and yet the world is changing, and Panama is changing, and everything's changing, and the people who are coming in from different countries are changing, and so on. And their viewpoints are changing and changing, and so much change. And I'm thinking to myself, do I really approach, is there a useful niche for me, so to speak? And above all, can I get back to this business of everything's free? I mean, I can't even begin to tell you every time I run a video, and knowing that Google has chosen through YouTube to monetize my channel without my permission or agreement. Basically, it's buried in my small print of my contract I signed well over a decade ago. And I admit that it's there, I've no doubt about it. So, and I become a victim of the algorithm. And it's a long story, and I'll probably describe it to you, but I've been looking for alternatives that might make more sense and still be practical. Because let's face it, YouTube's king of the mountain, all that sort of business. Well, I'm looking at alternatives, and I think I have a way of putting it all together. So, two things will be happening. One is that will be announced, is how I'm going to go about doing it. And the second is that my next report from Panama is going to be coming out. Now, people who've been around for a while know that Bob comes out and he says this, and then 2 weeks later he says, I'm working on it, we're getting closer, and 4 weeks later he says, gee, any day now. And maybe 6 weeks later, you get something. I don't know if it's going to take that long this time. I doubt it. I hope not. But I take these things very seriously, and they're quite, as you know, fairly detailed, and I go to the trouble of explaining things and so forth that other websites just don't bother doing. So, in fact, these reports I write really get widely distributed here. So I feel a responsibility to do a decent job of it each time, and that takes time. But those are the two things. One thing will be a shift in how I work with you, how we can work together and get back to this sense of being a community, so to speak. People, one thing we have in common, and it's all we need to have in common, is that an interest in Panama as a place to live, or actually living in it. Either way, that's what we've got. That's what brings this community together, and it's the only reason for it being together. I want to get back onto that focus. And secondly, I do want to bring you up, the whole membership up to date on this. So in order to be sure you get the newsletter, though, you've got to sign up for it. Now, listen to me. If you signed up in the last year or so, any time up until, well, pretty much any time, you're on the list. Unless you've purposely taken yourself off, you're on the mailing list. Each time I announce I'm going to have a letter coming out, people stop and think, gosh, I haven't heard from him in a long time. I'm going to have to, I'm going to put my email address in again to make sure that I'm on the list. Feel free to do that. It doesn't bother me at all. But if you know you have done it in the past and you're certain you haven't removed it, then you're on the list. Yeah? It's just so long between newsletters that people forget. And one other little point too, and I do encourage people to, when you no longer want the newsletter, then all you have to do is hit unsubscribe at the bottom of the newsletter. So I'm not trying to push that either. What I'm trying to do is get the sense of a common interest together where we can work together, where I can offer something that's useful to you and not just have it turn into blah, blah, blah. So that's it. I'm leaving it at that. And I'm looking forward to speaking to you again when I talk about how I get this alternative worked out. And then also reminding you more of what is coming up with the Retirement Wave newsletter. And I hope you do. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you do today, just so you're sure to get it. Because I cannot count on YouTube to get the notifications out to anybody. So it will be done here, but you might miss that completely. So good enough. If that's what you'd like, feel free to go below and find it and click on the link and do it. It's very, very simple. Thank you so much for putting up with it. And I look forward to being back with you on a little bit more regular basis, but under a different set of circumstances and possibly a more useful one for all of us.